Welcome to Like Mother, Like Murder. I am Rachel.
And I'm Heather.
We bring you the good,
The badass.
and the crime.
This is Like Mother, Like Murder.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Like Mother, Like Murder, your favorite true crime momcast. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Heather. And each week we bring you mom-related stuff. But today I'm a little scared because today we're bringing you mom-related spooky.
Mom-related spooky. So our session, what Heather got to see, it says Halloween special, but I gave her a little bit of a heads up, right? Because we are going to be doing our very first, we've never done this before, but kind of creepy Reddit stories that are Halloween, spooky, scary, mom-related stories. Before we do that, do a very, very quick rundown of what the girls are wearing Halloween costume-wise and what you guys are doing. I want to know.
So probably like half of
The world.
4 to 10-year-olds in America. I know in the world probably. They are going as K-pop demon hunters, but I just got sent an article and I've talked to like 3 moms. I am so lucky I ordered the costumes when I did because everybody's like out of costumes. So we will be very lucky to have our costumes. We've got a whole slew. Like Halloween is no longer a day. We've got trunk or treat tonight. We've got parades next week, and then we will have Halloween next week. And then I'm just ready, honestly, quite honestly, for Halloween to die down and to get into like just fall and Thanksgiving. But it's going to be a whirlwind, and I'm just like truly grateful because I spoke to another mom this morning who had to go drop like $50+ on a K-pop demon hunter costume.
Oh, yeah.
Because she tried to order one online and it just like got canceled and it couldn't come. And for both of my kids' costumes, all accessories, the costumes, all accessories, I paid less than $50 for both kids. So I count myself extremely lucky that I was thinking ahead when I got that. What about you?
So I've spent $0. That's a lie. Okay, so actually, no, it's not a lie because my mom ordered the wig. So I spent $0. But originally, my daughter wanted to be Poppy, and she wanted me to be, what's his name? I'm like totally Branch. I was like, Groot?
Yes, Groot.
It's been a long week. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And she gets this wig, and it's like she was going to modernize it. She's very fashionista, blah, blah, blah.
For sure.
So I'm thinking like, okay, she's going to make her like a done up, beautiful poppy troll thing. No, she changes it. Now she wants to be like a vibrant neon dead clown. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I've got nothing. She says that she has everything she needs. She's going to make it the best.
Hear you say that.
I'm just, I know, Scott, run away. I'll send him pictures. I'll text him and say, this is just for you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we'll see how it goes. But as for all of the different things to do, honestly, can't even keep up with my own life right now. So I don't know. I don't even know what's happening.
I'm like kind of ready for it to be. I usually love this time of year, but I'm kind of ready, like to kind of just like get into. I'm kind of just ready for the year to be over.
For the entire year, not just Halloween, like the entire year. Can we start over? Can it be my birthday? Because we need to move on with this year. So before you are able to move on with this year, I am going to bring you right into the depths of spooky, of haunted, of scary, of all of those things. You're welcome. You're welcome. And let me tell you, these stories that I found, like I said, we've never done this before. We've never done any sort of, like, when we do our good, the badass, and the crime, we find stories, we find articles, we find things, but never like this. And I had to make sure these had like a mom or parent element to it. And some of them had me freaking sweating as I was reading them. I was tripping. So I hope that's what happens to you.
Rachel, I'm like actually freaked out.
Good. That's what I want right now.
You're like, that's the point, Heather. I'm about to freak you the fuck out.
This was the game plan, and I hope that I execute it. So
Okay.
we are gonna get right into it. User Tales by the Campfire, a Halloween horror story. Allison's favorite holiday was Halloween. Even at the age of 21, she never grew out of the Halloween spirit. She still dressed up in scary costumes, went to pumpkin patches with her friends, and enjoyed the horror movie marathons that played all October long. But this Halloween was a little different. Because of her demanding career in pharmaceuticals, Allison was now living in a small town in Pennsylvania that was over 2 hours away from her family and friends. That meant most holidays and birthdays she spent celebrating them alone. However, being the optimist that she proudly was, she decided that this Halloween she was going to thoroughly enjoy herself, despite being alone from friends and family. These were her exact thoughts that Halloween evening as she made her way up the path to her front door. Kids in costumes were shouting for joy houses down as the neighbors handed out candy. Hurrying her pace, not wanting to miss the joy of giving candy out to the trick-or-treaters, Allison unlocked her front door and opened it. Before she stepped in, there, shoved under her welcome mat, was a white envelope. Curiously, Allison bent over and picked it up. There was no return address and only 2 words written on the front. For Allison. Wondering who would have left this here, she tore open the envelope, pulled out a letter, and began reading it. Dear Allison, how are you? I hope all is well and you're enjoying your new home. I'll keep this brief because there isn't much time. Tonight, Halloween night, be sure by 10 p.m. to lock all your doors and windows, and whatever you do, do not answer your door after 10 p.m. I don't care what you hear or what you think you hear. Do not open your door. Things beyond both our comprehensions will occur, and you must not open the door at any cost. Please heed my warnings. I only wish for your well-being. Be safe, stay strong, and do not open your door after 10 p.m. With love, your Aunt Cynthia. Allison read and reread the letter. She glanced up and down her street, trying to identify a prankster or mischief. She didn't have time to worry about this poor attempt at a cheap scare. Not only did she not have an Aunt Cynthia, but the trick-or-treaters were only 3 houses away, and she needed to prepare the candy bowl. It was her first Halloween in this neighborhood, and she wasn't going to be the neighbor who neglected the children and their sugar rush. She made her way inside, her mind quickly occupied with the Halloween joy, trick-or-treaters, and a night of handing out candy.
Trick-or-treat!
Any thoughts of ominous warnings and cheap scares were long gone. By 9:15 p.m., Allison's candy bowl was nearly empty. Despite being alone, she was having a great Halloween night. She bounced back and forth from answering the trick-or-treaters and watching the horror movie marathon on TV while enjoying a glass of red wine. By 9:45 p.m., she decided to call it quits. There hadn't been a trick-or-treater for nearly an hour. This was a young neighborhood after all. Most of the kids were all sugared out and in bed. Plus, John Carpenter's Halloween was the next movie on TV, and she did not want to miss 1 second of that. She quickly got up and went to turn off her front porch lights, signaling to any trick-or-treaters out there that she was closed for business. As she made her way to the front door, she noticed that it was 10 p.m. The letter's ominous warning came flooding back to her memory, but in her wine-induced state of being, she simply laughed at the poor attempt of a scare. As her hand went to the switch that would turn off her front porch lights, there was suddenly a knock at the door. "Trick or treat," Allison heard from the other side of the door. She reached for the doorknob and almost opened it. Almost. There was something odd about the voice. Something off. Allison cleared her throat. "Sorry, all out of candy." She expected whoever was at the door to go away. What she did not expect was to see her doorknob begin to turn. She quickly turned the lock and slid the deadbolt across. I said I'm all out of candy. I'm sorry. Try another house. Silence hung there like a dense fog. Allison, open the door. The wine buzz she was enjoying all night dissipated. She took a step back and pulled out her phone. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police. There was another long, drawn-out pause. Allison, we both know they can't help you. Her front door shook violently. The frame siding even began to splinter. Wood chips spilled to the ground. In a haste, she dialed 911. When she painstakingly explained her situation, that's when the violent attempt to break in ceased. There was an eerie calm. Allison sprinted into the kitchen and grabbed a steak knife. She opened her front door an inch to see if the maniac was still there. And that's when she saw the red and blue flashing lights. Copped cars and ambulances were scattered on the street and lawn of her next-door neighbor's house. She opened her door wider to analyze the situation, and a cop came sprinting over to her. "Ma'am, please lock all your doors and windows and stay inside for the night." Allison obliged, but not before noticing that the officer's uniform was covered in dark red. She relocked her door and sat on her living room couch waiting for sleep to come. But it never did. The next morning, the local news had the answer to Allison's questions. The newscaster was calling it the Halloween Massacre. Allison's next-door neighbors, the Doyles, were mutilated beyond recognition. They were a family of 6, a mom and dad and 4 kids, all gone from this earth. What was worse, the newscaster explained, was that there was no fingerprints, no DNA, or any other forms of evidence left behind. Just a family massacred, with no explanation of how. Allison watched the news unfold throughout the morning, tears stinging her eyes. She scrambled through her kitchen trash until she found it, the letter left on her mat. She dialed her mother, burning with questions. "Do I have an Aunt Cynthia?" There was a pause. "Allison, is everything all right? Where is this coming from?" "Answer the question. Do I have an Aunt Cynthia?" Allison heard her mother gulp. "Technically, yes." "Who is she? Why have I never met her?" Her mother sighed. "Sweetie, Cynthia was my younger sister. When she was born, her neck caught around the umbilical cord. She suffocated." Allison froze to the spot, her aunt's letter in hand. That's when she noticed that there was more writing on the back that she hadn't noticed before. She turned the letter over and read, "Sweetie, there has always been good and evil on this earth. It's up to us to protect our loved ones from the evil. We've never met, not in this life, but I am the guardian of your life. That's what family does. Stay blessed, Allison, and stay safe." Allison folded the letter to her chest. Her Aunt Cynthia was her guardian angel.
I just get goosebumps. I got goosebumps.
When I found this story, Heather, I was like reading through it, and when she's like going to the door, I'm like, don't you open that door! Don't you open that door! And I'm getting so angry, but it's like stuff like this I think is scarier for me because I 100% believe in signs and people reaching out and like doing stuff like this. Do I think that there's a physical letter that they wrote?
Yeah.
No. You know, like I don't believe that.
But people get
it's
feelings.
Crazy. It had me tripping.
It's so funny because like I literally just did this. So like my job had this like icebreaker, and someone asked the question, what's a controversial topic that you believe in? And I said that my belief is that I believe there are aliens and ghosts. And people were like, okay, we'll get you on the alien thing. Like, you know, there's bound to be like extraterrestrials out there, but like ghosts, really? And I said, look, there's got to be some kind of alternate like plane, because there's just way too many happenings in this world, like ghosts, spirits, whatever you want to call it. Like, there's just way too many stories out there.
Yeah, you're like, in one way or another,
Some kind
there
of
is.
meaning. Yeah. I'm like, there's no way. And everyone's like, no, Heather, you're dumb.
Yeah. I don't think you're dumb.
Thank you. Okay. Here we go. Let's see. When I was 9 or 10, my dad took me to visit with an older hunting buddy friend of his. My parents were divorced and my dad lived in another part of the country. So, while I had known this guy since I was a toddler, I didn't share the same common interests as either of them. The older friend was a gun dealer and had lots of catalogs. This was before the internet was in wide use to order bullets, magazines, guns, etc. And they often spent hours going through listings to determine what they wanted to order. We got there fairly early, and my dad said that after an hour or two, we'd all go to Hardee's for breakfast before going to shoot clay birds. Now, I'm a youngin'. I don't care much about guns or hunting for sport, and I'm just incredibly bored, so I start wandering around the house, reading my video game magazines that I had brought with me, and very quickly, that hour or two had passed, and they're still down there. I ask if they're going to leave anytime soon, and the friend suggests I check the refrigerator in the kitchen and see if there's anything I want to eat. I look through the fridge and find nothing. However, on the kitchen table, I see an apple and decide that will be appetizing enough to hold me over. As I pick up the apple and prepare to take a bite, at that point, his wife steps in and tells me, "Don't eat that. Everything in the bowl is wax." I tell her, "Thank you for warning me," and continue to wander around the house, burning time until we can get going. Maybe another 30 minutes later, I go back to the basement where they're going through the catalogs and ask, "When are we going to Hardee's?" My dad's friend asks if I'm still hungry after going through their fridge. I tell him that I was going to eat an apple, but his wife told me it was wax before I made the mistake. Both of them give me a blank stare, and after about 20 seconds of shock, my dad explains that his wife had recently passed away. I then go back through the house to try to find her, to show that they were just joking with me, but sure enough, she was nowhere to be found. Roughly 30 years later, before he passed away, my dad still insisted that I must have imagined it, but I didn't. She had told me not to eat the wax apple. Ooh, I get goosebumps.
I don't like that.
Like,
That's what I'm saying. Like, I believe in signs like that, but it's like still like,
and think about the juxtaposition of that, like, of those last two stories. Like, there was like a woman whose aunt, someone she knew, like who was close to the family, looking to protect her from something heinous, like something really bad.
right.
And then someone who seemingly like never really met this child, or maybe did like a long time ago, being like, "Don't eat that, honey. Like, that's wax." Like something like very small, but she's hanging out probably in her house, like, just being like, "Don't eat the wax apple, honey." It's just so like, it's so interesting, like how these kind of things happen.
I feel like that the hunter.
But I believe it. I truly do.
Right.
Because
Like that.
he get
That's
that
crazy.
from?
That's the part that I'm like, it doesn't make sense. And I feel like even though the dad was like, dude, like she passed away, the husband's probably like, no, I sense her here all the time. Like that's just the way that I would see it, is like he knew that there was like a presence.
And I bet you his wife had a thing about those, like that thing on the table.
She probably created that basket and like he never moved it, like it's like her thing.
Exactly.
Okay, this one is crazy. This is from the Reddit thread, Your Scariest Campfire Stories. The user was deleted. So-and-so's friend, a girl in her teens, is babysitting for a family in Newport Beach, California. The family is wealthy and has a very large house. You know the sort, with a ridiculous amount of rooms. Anyways, the parents are going out for a late dinner/movie.
The father tells the babysitter that once the children are in bed, she should go into this specific room. He didn't want her wandering around the house, and that in this room she should watch TV there. The parents take off, and soon she gets the kids into bed and goes to the room to watch TV. She tries watching TV, but she is disturbed by a clown statue in the corner of the room. She tries to ignore it for a long time, but it starts freaking her out so much that she can't handle it. She resorts to calling the father and asks, "Hey, the kids are in bed, but is it okay if I switch rooms? This clown statue is really creeping me out." The father says seriously, "Get the kids, go next door, and call 911. She asks, "What's going on?" He responds, "Just go next door, and once you call the police, call me back." She gets the kids, goes next door, and calls the police. When the police are on the way, she calls the father back and asks, "So, really, what's going on?" He responds, "We don't have a clown statue." He then further explains that the children have been complaining about a clown watching them as they've been sleeping. He and his wife had just blown it off, assuming that they were having nightmares. The police arrive and apprehend the clown, who turned out to be a midget clown. I guess he was some homeless person dressed as a clown who somehow got into the house and had been living there for several weeks. He would come into the kids' room at night and watch them while they slept. As the house was so large, he was able to avoid detection, surviving off of their food, etc. He had been in the TV room right before the babysitter came in. When she entered, he didn't have enough time to hide, so he just froze in place and pretended to be a statue.
No. I am not going to be able to. I am going. That is okay.
Nightmares are made.
That is one of my biggest. I can't, because this is okay. Look, I have, and so you know how people. Okay, I can't even form a sentence. You know how like when people put like the baby monitors in their kids' rooms, they usually like have it like, okay, like I'm having the baby monitor like on my baby.
Yeah.
So when the babies were little, like that's what it was like, zoomed in on their crib. Now that they're older, I have the baby monitor like up in like the corner of the room.
Right.
I can't breathe because I want to see the entirety of their room. And what I do, like if we have to move around, like for instance, we just got them new beds and stuff, and like we bought Evie like a bookshelf and stuff. When I have to move around a room, I make Zach stand in the corner of a room, and then I set up the camera so that if someone's standing in the corner of one of their rooms, I would be able to see them, like no blind spots.
Right.
That is how paranoid I am about that kind of shit.
Oh yeah.
Rachel, you are going to give me nightmares. Like, what are you doing?
That one had me like, I think I cried a little. Like, as I was like, as soon as he said like, get out of the house, I was like, wait, what? I was tripping.
You're not thinking at all. Scott, if you're listening to this episode, I am insanely sorry.
I'm not sorry. You're welcome.
Oh my God. Look at my shins. I'm all red. Oh my
God. Can we only, was that the third? That was the third story. Should we call it quits?
Oh my God. No, because I have to get something else out of my head.
Well, it doesn't get any better.
Rachel. Okay. Let's just do like one more at least. Okay, so this one is user Horror Energy 798. This is, thank God, a made-up ghost story to scare my mom.
Yeah.
Turns out it wasn't made up at all. Wait, what? Don't like that. Here we go. There are 5 of us in my family: mom, dad, my 2 sisters, and me. We were living in a rented house for a while, and ever since we moved there, I used to notice strange things whenever I was alone. Spoons or other kitchen utensils would suddenly fall, or clothes hanging on hangers would drop for no reason. My younger sister experienced this too, but my mom, dad, and elder sister never did. They just say, it's nothing, or the wind, or my imagination. But I always felt like there was something around, like a quiet presence. Anyway, our rental agreement ended and we were shifting to a new place. I was at the office that day, so when I came home later, I decided to prank my mom. I told her, I used to see a woman in that old house. She wasn't trying to harm me or anything, but she'd come near my bed whenever I was alone. She even had a small baby with her. She'd just sit there quietly. I was literally laughing inside, waiting for her reaction. But my mom got pale and scared. She told me to wait. My elder sister was about to come home. I thought she was just overreacting, and I told her it was a prank once my sister arrived. When my sister came home, my mom started crying and said, "Your brother also saw that woman." That word, also, made me freeze. I was confused and asked what she meant. Then my mom told me that my elder sister had been seeing the same woman regularly, the one with a small baby, and we decided to move out. The woman told my sister angrily, "Don't leave this house." I swear I got goosebumps. I told them I was joking, that I made it up just to prank her, but my mom didn't believe me. She thought I was pretending so she wouldn't worry. A few days later, my sister told us that while she was sleeping in our new house, she heard the same woman's voice again. The voice said, "Come meet me. I'm standing outside." She said she got up half asleep, walked to the window, and was about to open it, then suddenly woke up, terrified, realizing it was a dream, or maybe not. And the weirdest part, the same kind of things, spoons falling, clothes dropping, still happens in this new place. Only me and my younger sister noticed them. At this point, I don't know if it was the house that was haunted or if something came with us.
Something came with them.
Yeah, I have goosebumps, dude.
The fact, like, when it said also, I was like, no, 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 this is not going the direction I wanted it to go.
Not cool.
Ugh.
That's like some freaking, what is that movie?
Poltergeist?
No.
I don't know movies.
It's like a found footage.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, it's the sister, and then it's like, it follows the other
No, thank you. All right, this
No,
one's
thank
probably like the worst one.
No, stop.
I don't think this one's real.
Okay,
It better not be real. When you hear the
know
ending,
what?
it better not be real, okay?
halfway through this last one I was reading, I was just picturing like a clown in my head. Thank you.
Yeah, that one's scary. I gave myself the scary one so that I could read it in all its full terror and you hear my shaky, scared
freak
voice.
me
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
I got you. All right. This is from the Reddit thread No Sleep and is by user Wrong Station. Since it's October, I thought I should share this story from when I was a kid. My mom struggled with Halloween. When I was growing up, my mom would get very anxious every year around Halloween. It started with the news stories that always seemed to roll out on October 1st. Local police on the local news solemnly warning parents to check every piece of candy that their children got, to be on the lookout for razor blades and apples and powdered bleach in the Pop Rockets, as if these were the things that killed kids, and not guns or cars or poverty. But my mother was the sort of person who was looking for a reason to be afraid. She didn't like us riding our bikes past the end of the street.
No!
Because she was afraid a stranger might come along. At night, she would check every door and window twice, and then check every closet in the house. Twice, she called the police on the guy from the telephone company because he was hanging around the telephone pole in our back laneway.
And so October always came as kind of a relief to her because it came as an excuse to let her worst fears run rampant. Because the local police and the local news were telling her, you're right, it's scary, it's dangerous, so be afraid. I say, always, but I think I just remember those last few years of childhood when she'd gotten really bad. Dad says it started small, got worse as she became more religious. The year I was 9, we got back from trick-or-treating and my mom was sitting on the couch, her eyes red, with red streaks all down her face, and it was clear she had been crying from the moment we left. She made me and my sister put down our bags, and we weren't allowed to have any candy until she'd gone through each and every piece. She took so long with each one, checking the wrappers under a bright light and Grandma's crossword magnifying glass, that she wasn't done until hours after we'd already gone to bed, enraged. Must have been 3 in the morning when we woke up the next day. Half our candy was in the garbage because it hadn't passed the test. I pulled a lot of mine out, and when my mom found out, she screamed at me and cried and tried to ground me. Afterward, my dad had a talk with her, and I wasn't grounded, but he apologized and threw the candy back in the garbage. He promised to buy me more, and he did, but bought candy just isn't the same as trick-or-treated candy for a kid. The year I was 10, things came to a head. Mom didn't want us going out trick-or-treating at all. She had seen it in the news. Satanists were drugging children through their candy. My dad sent us outside to play, but we could hear them arguing inside. Her voice raised, her tears, and the low, calm rumble of his voice slowly rising to match hers. They fought for 3 hours. My sister and I just sitting out back on a pile of old bricks wearing our Halloween costumes as the day faded. My sister quietly crying as she told me every few minutes, we're missing Halloween. At last, the back door slammed and my father stormed out. He had a red mark on his cheek and his jaw was clenched. When he saw the two of us sitting there, his eyes filled with angry tears, and he flung out both his arms towards us and said, "Come on, kids, we're going trick-or-treating." We each held his hand, and he walked us around the house, and when we got out front, my mom was standing at the door shouting, "What are you doing, Frank? You're going to get them killed!" He told her very calmly, "I'm taking the kids trick-or-treating, Linda." At that time, she ran out of the house after us, reaching for my sister and I. But we both hid behind our dad, and he put his arms protectively to either side. "You don't want to stay." She howled at us. "You don't want to stay with Mommy?" But we were both so afraid of her red face and her wide, wild, shining eyes that we just shook our heads and clung to Dad's jacket. At this, she shrank to the pavement. "You don't love me," she told us. "You don't love me. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing." Dad just put his arms around us and steered us away. "We'll be back at 8, he said. When we were down at the end of the block, he told us, "I'm sorry about your mother, kids. She's going through a really tough time right now, and I don't know how to help her." "Is she going to be okay?" my sister asked. He put his arm around her and said, "Yes, honey, it's all going to be okay." She believed him. She was just a little kid, but I was just old enough to realize from the way he said it that he was trying to convince himself as much as us. Fuck. Well, it was Halloween and we were still kids, and before long we were having fun running up to the houses and being as cute as we could, and being as scary as we could, and being as silly as we could.
Happy Halloween!
And each time we ran back down to the sidewalk, our dad would be standing there with a big sad smile to tell us how great we were doing. By the end of the night, we each had a full pillowcase, and my sister was half asleep, being carried in the crook of my dad's arm. We got home after dark, and I was afraid that my mom would still be lying on the pavement, crying out front. But she had gone to her room and didn't come out to bother us, even as we sat on the living room floor and counted all our spoils. And Dad told us, "You can have 2 pieces, then it's bed." But when I went to bed, I couldn't really sleep. All I could see when I closed my eyes were the red tear streaks running down my mom's face, the bright black rings of her tear-clogged eyelashes, the terror blazing in her wide eyes. I pulled the covers up over my head and I cried for a long, long time. Eventually, you run out of tears. That blessed, numb calm came over me, and I lay there for a while, just watching the patterns of the popcorn ceiling. After a while, I still hadn't fallen asleep, and I decided I was hungry. All those tears had left me hollow, and now I wanted to fill myself with something sweet, something that when I ate, it would remind me of the feeling of happiness. Well, I had Halloween candy just out in the living room. So I got up quietly, crept to the door, opened it as softly as I could, then patted down the carpeted hallway towards the living room. I could see faintly by the moonlight, which drained down the skylight above the couch. There was a faint rustle in the living room ahead. Of course, my first childish thought was that a burglar had come to steal our candy. But as I slowed and peeked around the corner, what I found was the dark mass of my mother, piled up in her blankets on the couch. Her hair was wild and she wasn't crying anymore. But her shoulders were shaking with little suppressed sobs. And yet, despite her trembling breaths, she was intent as she hunched over, something in her hands, and her movements were purposeful, deliberate. My sister's trick-or-treat bag was on the coffee table. There were a few full-size bars we'd gotten from the rich house down the street. My mother had carefully unwrapped one of them. Keeping her fingers cold with a bowl of ice water and a kitchen towel on the couch cushion beside her, she was fiddling with the chocolate bar. I wasn't sure what she was doing until something in her fingers caught the dim moonlight from above. A razor blade. I watched in stunned silence and confusion as she slowly worked the blade into the soft chocolate and nougat until it was mostly hidden. Then, carefully, she closed the wrapper up, using a dab from a glue stick to almost make it look as though the mylar had never been opened at all. After that, she drew a new razor blade from the pack and reached for my bag of candy. I took a trembling half step forward. I said, "Mom?" And I'll never forget the brightness of her eyes in the dark.
What the fuck? Oh my god. But this is how urban legends get started though, because like this is the thing. This is freaking Munchausen's. This is exactly what it is.
Yeah, I debated even putting this in here because I'm like, this is terrifying, but if it does anything, please just take all your kids' candy, hide it away, and seriously just go buy them something else. Just go buy them something else.
This is Munchausen's by proxy, though. This is exactly like we've taught. Like, this is like that's some Gypsy Rose shit. This is what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh.
Yep. I didn't like it. All right, we will have you end us off.
Okay. So this is called this is from user Dr. Octagonopus.
I think it's Octagonopus.
Help us. Oh.
Either way, if that doesn't bring you back to reality after that terrifying story, I was like, I definitely got to read this one.
Okay. This is 100% true, even though most people I tell this to in real life don't believe me. When I was really little, my parents would let me stay up late on the weekends and watch TV until I fell asleep. I really loved these times, and I would stay up later than anybody else just because I could. Well, one night, I was almost asleep on the couch when I heard a noise on our front porch. It was the sound of our old-fashioned porch swing moving back and forth. I was a little scared, so I crept toward the bay windows of my living room and peeked towards the porch. Sitting on my front porch swing was an older woman, probably in her 50s, wearing nothing but a nightgown, covered in blood, and holding a huge kitchen knife. I flipped out immediately and ran, screaming into my parents' room, but was too terrified to form words. My parents saw that I was upset, but when I finally was able to tell them what I saw, my dad got really angry and told me that it was just a dream and to go back to bed. I refused and kept crying and screaming until he had had enough and snatched my arm and dragged me towards the front door to prove there was nothing there. I kicked and screamed all the way, trying to make him stop, but he kept pulling me. Finally, we got to the door, he unlocked it and swung it open and said, "See, there's nothing that..." To this day, I have never seen the look of fear and shock that was on his face when the woman turned and stared at both of us and slowly stood up with the knife. My dad slammed the door shut and got my mom to call the police while he went and got his gun. He went back to the door with a 12 gauge and cracked the door enough to stick the barrel out. He asked her what she was doing and she said, "Somebody killed my husband, but it wasn't me." My dad told her that the police were coming and she freaked out, grabbed the knife, and walked away. The police found her 15 minutes later trying to break into one of our neighbors' houses. I never slept in the living room again. Edit. Oh yeah, I forgot that after she left, my dad called and warned my crazy uncle who lived next door what was happening. Apparently, he was waiting on his front porch with a shotgun when she walked by. He pointed it at her and just said, "Keep moving, bitch."
And there we have it. That's where we are ending for this terrifying episode. I want to be that uncle so bad. I'm the hide under my covers human. I could not be the one out there. I'm so scared. I can't even read these stories without crying. Oh.
Jeez. Rachel, you really curated some really friggin' creepy ass stories here, man.
Okay, so I mean, I've listened to numerous podcasts that tell scary stories, creepy stuff all the time. And there's plenty that I listen to and I go, that's so scary. Doing the research myself and trying to find like stories that I felt would be so scary to like read to you guys today. Part of it was like a comedy show where I would read these things. I'd be like, that was the dumbest thing I ever read in my life. And then other ones I was like, okay, I definitely can't read that on the podcast. It's too crazy. And then these, even some of them, I was like, that's definitely insane. But I was like, I wanted to get you guys a little spooky, a little creeped out. And I think that we did a job. We did that.
You accomplished that. You got me creeped out and scared. I'm going to be thinking about clowns all friggin' day, man.
So actually, I have a good question. What if, so I have one more story here. I think I might just record it and then you can listen to it as something you've never heard before when the podcast episode comes out. She's like tripping. I think I will. So then you get a little bit of it.
That sounds scary.
Heather, it'll be a little shock for you, so make sure you come back and listen as well. And I will end this with one more creepy story. This is by user SolarDRXPP1. My grandmother told me a scary bedtime story. Years later, I found out that the story she told me was horrifyingly true. I watched from a distance while my grandpa and grandma fished on their lake in the backyard. But one thing confused me. While Grandpa cast his line and watched his rod, waiting for the anticipating tug of a fish, Grandma's gaze remained fixed across the lake, her head tilted intently towards the dark fringe of woods. I never saw her look at the bobbing lures. She didn't even seem interested in fishing at all. I thought that maybe she just seemingly enjoyed looking at the trees, but a nagging feeling persisted. There was more to her gaze than a simple love for nature. It was summer break, and I decided to spend it at my grandparents' house in Knoxville, Tennessee.
They lived in a 2-story house, recently built in 2018. It connected directly to a lake with a dock jutting out on the far right side where my grandpa kept his bass boat. My grandparents were a sweet and quiet couple. They kept to themselves most of the time, living a peaceful life in their corner of the world. Every summer, though, my visits became a tradition. Grandma's invitation was always an automatic yes, her warm smile and gentle voice a beacon calling me back. There were countless things to love about my grandma, her kindness and her generosity at the top of the list. If I wanted something, it was usually an automatic yes from her, too. Yes. But one of the things I truly cherished most was her stories. Unlike Grandpa, who mostly stuck to the tales of his time in the military, exciting stories filled with bravery and adventure, of course. Grandma was filled with a bottomless well of stories. Whether it was a funny story from her childhood, a heartwarming story about a kind neighbor, or a fantastical bedtime story that transported me to a magical land, Grandma always had one on hand. She was one of those special grandmas who could weave a story from thin air, her words painting vivid pictures in my mind. Grandpa, on the other hand, was a man of few words. A quiet strength emanated from him, and the stories he did tell were always about his service. He'd talk about the places he'd been, the challenges he'd faced, and the lessons he learned. While not as fantastical as Grandma's stories, they held a different kind of magic, a testament to his resilience and the experiences that shaped him. One of the things I always admired about Grandpa was his outdoor skills. He'd tell me most of his knowledge came from his military training, jokingly saying they'd prepared him for anything. He was a true outdoorsman, the kind of person I'd trust implicitly if we were ever lost in the wilderness. He knew everything about fishing, the best spots on the lake, the best techniques to catch different types of fish. Some of my favorite memories were spent on his boat, cutting through the cool morning water, the sun rising over the horizon, and the gentle hum of the motor, a comforting lullaby. Every night, Grandma dipped into her seemingly endless well of stories. I never quite understood how she did it. Her mind was like a sprawling library, shelves overflowing with stories to tell. One night, she'd tell me a story of brave knights seeking vengeance, their swords gleaming in the sun. Another night, she'd tell me a story of a land shimmering with magic spells and cursed lands. Then, there were the scary stories. Now, Grandma usually avoided them. She knew how they affected me. But the thing about those stories was the detail. Oh man, the detail. They were so vivid, so real. It felt like I was peeking through a crack into another world. A world where the monsters and creatures she described lurked. A world so terrifying that I felt like falling through that crack would kill me. Every night was the same routine. Nestled under a patchwork quilt in the guest room, I'd wait with bated breath. The soft click of the doorknob was my cue. Grandma, her face etched with a lifetime of stories, would enter, a gentle smile gracing her lips. She'd pull up a rocking chair, its rhythmic creaking added to the lullaby effect. Then, in a warm voice, she'd begin telling me a story. One night, though, tucked under the patchwork quilt, I waited for Grandma's nightly visit. The soft click of the doorknob announced her arrival. "Ready for another story?" she asked, her voice a warm rumble. I nodded eagerly. Nights at Grandma's were journeys to magical lands, each story more thrilling than the last. But tonight, I craved a different kind of story, a different kind of excitement. "Can you tell me a scary story tonight, Grandma?" I blurted out. A flicker of surprise crossed her face, followed by a thoughtful pause. Unlike her usual repertoire of action-packed adventures, her stories have always steered clear of scary ones. She sat beside me on the patchwork quilt, her unusual mischievous eyes replaced by a thoughtful gaze. Her eyes flickered towards the window for a moment before returning to me. Then, with a gentle smile, she began. "Those woods outside your window." She started, her voice a warm rumble. I instinctively glanced towards the window, the familiar silhouette of the trees outlined across the lake. "There's something in those woods." She continued, her voice dropping to a hushed whisper. A shiver danced down my spine, though the room remained pleasantly warm. Those simple words made me so uncomfortable that I was tempted to just tell Grandma to stop, but the truth was, I was hooked. Grandma did tell me scary stories on rare occasions, but they were always fictional, completely disconnected from the real world. She continued, every 7 years, it comes out of those woods. It emerges, a creature that's been on this earth for thousands of years. It crawls on all fours. It hunts, a silent predator, searching for its prey. I began to tense up a little bit. The room remained quiet, but the air felt heavy. Its body is like a man, but twisted and contorted, she murmured, and its limbs elongated, reaching out at odd angles. Its skin is black as coal, making it difficult to spot during the night. I swallowed hard, my eyes instinctively draw back to the windows. The trees, once comforting, now seemed to writhe with unseen shadows. But the worst part, she continued, her voice barely a tremor, is its eyes. Multiple eyes scattered across its head like a spider. They pierce the darkness, searching for an unsuspecting victim. She continued, her voice a hushed whisper, sending shivers down my spine. Sometimes, if it has trouble finding prey, it ventures closer to houses, searching for unlocked windows. My breath caught in my throat. The image of eyes peering through the glass sent a jolt of terror through me. If it finds an open window, she murmured, it will crawl inside and snatch the closest person to it, dragging them back to the woods. I squeezed my eyes shut, the warmth of the quilt a poor barrier against the sudden chill. It keeps its victims alive for 7 long years, she whispered, feeding off them slowly until the hunger returns and it's time to hunt once more. My grip tightened on the blanket and my knuckles were white. A cold sweat was dripping down my skin. But don't you worry, she said, her voice gentling. As long as we keep the windows locked, we'll be safe. And don't forget to do the same at your mom's house. She rose from the quilt, her smile strained at the edges. A smile meant to reassure, but one that couldn't hide the sliver of unease in her eyes. Her movements seemed slow and deliberate as she walked towards the window. My eyes followed her, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. She stared out the window for a moment, as if checking to make sure the thing wasn't around, and then she checked to make sure the window was locked. Just as she was about to turn away, I blurted out, unable to contain the question that had lodged itself in my throat. Grandma, have you ever seen it? She paused for a few moments, a flicker of something unreadable crossing her face before a reassuring smile crept onto her lips. She didn't answer me. She simply leaned down and kissed my forehead, a gesture filled with a strange intensity. Good night, darling, she whispered. Then, with a gentle click, she shut my door behind her. I was awake for most of that night, staring at the darkened window pane. The familiar silhouette of the woods outside now held a new kind of terror. I kept wondering if I would see that face my grandma described, a face with multiple eyes staring back at me. Eventually, exhausted from fear and lack of sleep, my eyelids drifted shut, and I finally drifted off. While I slept, I dreamt of its form shifting and writhing in the darkness. I ran my legs, pumping, but it was like I was running on ice. Panic seized me as the figure lunged, its long arms wrapping around my legs. It dragged me, a rag doll, through the grass, the stench of damp grass filling my nostrils. The woods grew bigger as the things dragged me there, its jagged edges threatening to devour me whole. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Just as the branches of the trees were about to engulf me, I jolted awake, gasping for breath. Light streamed through the window, painting familiar shapes on the ceiling. The room held a peaceful stillness. It took several deep breaths to slow the pounding of my heart. Relief washed over me, chasing away the lingering dread. Since that night, despite Grandma's steady stream of news stories, the creature in the woods has remained a constant shadow in the corner of my mind. Thankfully, the nightmares, those terrifying chases through endless woods didn't last. Slowly, the story faded from memory. A few years later, a different kind of darkness descended upon our family. Cancer, a cruel, selfish thief, stole my grandmother's health bit by bit. She fought for months, but in the end, the disease won. It left a hole in our lives, especially for Grandpa. Now, he lives alone, the silence of the house heavy with her absence. Talking about her seems to bring a new, fresh wave of pain, etched deep into the lines on his face. Sometimes he murmurs about just waiting for his turn to join her. It's a heartbreaking sight, a man transformed into a solitary figure, simply waiting to die. That year was a blur of grief, a dark tunnel we all had to navigate. But with the love and support of family and friends, we eventually managed to pull through. With each passing year, the grief lessened, but Grandma's memory remained. Then, after another few years, during my senior year in high school, something happened. I walked into the house after a long day. The familiar scent of an empty house greeted me. Mom had already left for work. Pulling my backpack onto my bed, I pulled out my books and settled in for an evening of homework, studying, and the occasional break to watch TV. I shut off the TV, changed into my pajamas, and crawled into bed. Sleep, however, remained elusive. My mind was a tangled mess, tossing and turning over the events of the day. Finally, I peeked at the clock on my desk, its green glow reading almost 3 a.m. Just then, a sound shattered the silence. A sharp tap that echoed through the room. My eyes flew open, snapping towards the window. A wave of ice washed over me, freezing my blood solid. Memories of Grandma's story flooded back. The creature? The woods? There, pressed against the glass, was a form that blocked most of the moonlight from filtering in. If not for the sliver of the moonlight peeking around what was blocking it, I would have been able to see it all. Its human-shaped body pressed against the window, and across its head, I could have sworn I saw movement. A flicker like multiple tiny insects scurrying across its flesh. Then, a horrifying realization dawned on me. They weren't insects. They were eyelids. Eyelids flickering open and shut, scanning my room with frantic urgency. My breath hitched. Was this a dream? Just then, a shadowy limb, long and impossibly thin, snaked out towards the base of my window. Had I locked it? Had I locked the window? The sickening sound of the window, as the glass began to slide up, hit my ears. Terror choked and screamed in my throat. There are woods behind my mom's house, too, and a sickening realization dawned on me. This wasn't just a story. It was real, and it was here. Adrenaline surged through me, and my flight or fight response kicked in. I threw myself out of bed in a desperate scramble. My feet pounded the floor as I bolted towards the door, flinging it open. But my escape was cut short. The door slammed shut in my face, the force of it throwing me backwards. A strangled cry escaped my lips as a wave of terror washed over me. My body walked up and every muscle seized in a silent scream. Somehow it was now in my room. That fast. It was no longer at the window. It was now above me, above my door. One of its grotesquely long limbs, tipped with a hand like a spider's claw, pressed firmly against the door, pinning me inside. Another seemed contorted at an unnatural angle, its fingers splayed against the wall in a grotesque parody of a grip. The head, if you could call it that, twisted on its neck in a way that defied human anatomy, almost spinning completely around. A chorus of eyes locked onto me. Trapped and alone, I stumbled back, my mind scrambling for any flicker of hope. The second floor was an escape route, but a leap out the window would likely result in injury, leaving me in a vulnerable position. Besides, that's where it probably wanted me. Right next to the door stood my wooden baseball bat. In a desperate lunge, I grabbed it, the wood rough against my grip. With a yell, I swung the bat with all my strength. connecting with a sickening thud. Splinters of wood rained down as the impact sent a tremor through the room. The creature recoiled slightly, its multiple eyes flickering in what might have been surprise, but the silence that followed was the most unsettling part. No roar of pain, no growl. This thing moved with an unnatural quiet. Even as it moved, it made no noise. It descended to the floor, its grotesque form dwarfing the space in my room. As it loomed closer, lowering its body in a predatory crouch, I swung the mangled bat wildly. The bat connected with a bone-crunching impact, sending more shards of wood flying through the air. The creature recoiled, its grotesque form momentarily faltering. Seizing my chance, I bolted past the thing, flung open the bedroom door, and slammed it shut behind me with a resounding bang. Adrenaline pumping, I raced down the stairs, each step echoing in the sudden silence. Reaching the living room, I fumbled for the light switch, illuminating the space with a warm glow. Panting, I gripped the broken bat like a lifeline. Its splintered end pointed towards the top of the stairs, towards the thing in my room. Suddenly, a new sound pierced the tense silence, the creak of the front door opening. A silhouette emerged from the doorway, the dim porch light casting long shadows across her face. "There you are," my mom's voice, laced with exhaustion. "What the hell are you?" The sentence died on her lips, completely cut short. Her eyes widened, but neither she nor I had time to react. In a sharp and quick moment, a shadowy, distorted limb, tipped with a spidery claw, shot out, wrapping around my mother's waist. It snagged her, sinking its talon deep into her flesh, a sickening tear echoing in sudden silence. A strangled noise bubbled in her throat, cut short before it could form a scream. But then I heard her scream fully formed as the thing dragged her away to the woods. I ran with all my effort, but the thing was too fast. All I could do was keep running, watching as my mom screamed with her arms folded around the creature's arm in a desperate attempt to escape. It had her, though, exactly where it wanted her, out in the open. I fell face first into the grass, a sob wrenching its way out of my chest. Warm tears streamed down my face, blurring my vision as I watched in horror. Mom's scream turns into blood-curdling shrieks, fading into a horrifying silence as they disappeared into the indistinguishable maw of the woods. The police came, but what could they do? What could I tell them? I told them exactly what I saw. They looked at me like I was crazy, but what else could I say? For hours, I sat in a sterile interrogation room, the harsh overhead light blurring my vision. They questioned me over and over, dissecting my story, searching for inconsistency. But all I could do was repeat the horrifying scene, my voice cracking with each retelling. There was no evidence to tie me to my mom's disappearance. Nothing but my frantic pleas and the raw terror etched onto my face. Finally, they seemed to reach a reluctant roadblock. With a sigh and a dismissive glance, they released me. Now, a search party combs the backyard, venturing into the dense woods behind our house. Bloodhounds sniff the damp earth, their mournful howls echoing through the trees. In my room, the silence pressing down on me like a physical weight. As the harsh light of dawn breaks, I stare at the window. A large handprint, a grotesque, splayed imprint of multiple fingers, clings to the outside of the glass. A cold realization settles over me. Now I know that at least one of my grandma's stories is real. There you guys go. You're welcome.
No, you're not welcome. I don't like it.
All right. Okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, I love you. Bye.
Happy
Happy
Halloween. Jinx.